our ultimate 2025 Springbok team, every Sunday with André Pretorius.
Let's move over to looseheads now. We'll start out with a swing prop. I think we already saw him in your clips. Nché Toit. He's been leading Bath, even though sometimes he comes off the bench because Will Stewart is the top prop there for that team under Johan van Graan. But Nché Toit is a crowd favorite at the rec. People love him there because he scores tries. And he is a big body. I think he might be our biggest prop in this list so far. Let's get into the tank.
Gary, so first one, just to carry inside the 22, just, not a typical prop carry. Keeps working with the legs. So it's not just a case of going down. He keeps pumping those legs. At one stage, I thought there was a bit of a cannon arm, which would have been great to see if he had, do that intentionally. If you get down, put that arm down, keep yourself up. But great leg drive, and the ball's available there. And he does tend to promote himself. He'll get into carry positions where I think a guy like Wilco's he likes to carry, but it's kind of like Franco Mostert. He feels more at home blasting or latching. But I think as things progresses, as his career progresses, he's going to be carrying more, just like these other boys. On his tackling, obviously, he's a player that tackles in front. Also nice and low, forward lean. Now, when props get into that position, it's a very difficult carry for, it doesn't matter who's carrying the ball. Because once they get you in that position, and you can see Wilco on the other side, that's a terrible double to run into in the first place. You've made a really bad decision, but there's no one asking for the ball there, and that's probably the reason why. But that position that he gets into is just that's a scrum position. See his feet at the back there? And I know a lot of defense coaches and tackle coaches say, you shouldn't be planting with both feet, but you can punch off both feet. I'd rather have him punch off that than soaking and having the ruck back here. So it's a great technique, punches into that, and then stays in front, finishes that tackle to ensure that there's no extra inches gained from them. And then also what I like is he's got a jackal mentality. So again, great position to be in. There's a chop and top. He goes on top. Once he feels the tackle's done, he puts him down and he gets onto that ball immediately. I think it's tough. I would have expected the ref to pay him on this one, but that's a big guy, like you said, and look at that position he gets himself into, Harry.
Well, it's beautiful, actually.
And what I like is the fact that he knows Mostert has done the job. He feels that resistance is going away. This guy's going down. I don't have to put in any more energy into this collision. All I need to do is show the daylight and get myself on there. And I mean, obviously that 4 is definitely not a side entry. That's legal as hell, as we all know. So otherwise, if he doesn't come in from the side there, Thomas steals that ball without a doubt. I just like the fact that he's got that jackal mentality. Another awareness he has is once they get someone, good line speed, but once they get him upstairs, he does have the awareness to stay in the fight and not try and do anything funny, but just hold him up. And I think the communication here with Eben, that is so clever. That is just out the box thinking from Eben there, punching the ball back and getting that ball back into the Springbok side. And this is the famous Springbok move for they only do this against the Scots, is where Franco pretends to catch the ball, pushes it into Thomas's hands, and then Thomas scores from there.
Yes, man.
He must have enjoyed that one, that's for sure.
Yeah, Tank's always got his socks pulled up. He's ready for action. Doesn't crack a smile very often. He's also not a big talker. He's definitely one of those hard workers. At the scrum time, because he's a swing prop, it's interesting because part of the mentality of a swing prop is you have to scrum differently when you change sides. He's been used on both sides throughout his whole career. Sometimes he started for a whole season at 1. Sometimes he started for a whole season at 3. He's played more at 1 than anywhere else. So we're sliding him over to the loosehead side for purposes of this debate. But you could see that in Camp Rossi with their obsession with versatility. And what if someone gets carded? What if there's an injury and we want to keep having scrums? We don't want to have an uncontested scrum. He gives you flexibility. The mark about him is that he's a big, big guy, and people only realize how big he is until they're actually on top of him and they're in the mouth of the scrum, the ultimate gauntlet. And you have to sort of size someone up and say, where am I putting that arm? Where does that go? The other thing is hookers sometimes have a hard time getting their arms around both Wilco and Tank if they're both in the front row. That he's actually, I think, perfectly poised for a nice run at the 2027 World Cup. When we looked at his stats and how his performances rate, 37 out of 40 at the scrum, bear in mind, as a loosehead, you're supposed to attack. A tight head isn't supposed to dominate anybody in a scrum, really. You're supposed to make sure that your side doesn't collapse and that you don't get pushed back. And you're giving the opportunity for the loosehead to attack. He is an attacking scrum prop, but not as attacking as Ox, for example. 25 out of 30 on the tackle. Although looking at these clips, you kind of want to bump him up. What I like about him, he doesn't go for the pancake all the time. He's a thinking prop. He's trying to figure out, do I choke? Do I hold you up? Do I strip? Do I rip? 18 out of 20 on the maul lift. It's a fantastic person to have in your lineout with those long arms and his ability to really lift people almost easily. He's not, necessarily in the gym every day. He's probably one of those guys that he walked into the gym the first time in his whole life and he bench pressed, 200. And then 9 out of 10 for his carry, because his carry abilities is at the top of props worldwide. Like, you ask anyone in the Prem, you talk to the All Blacks about who they'd prefer not to face in that late, last 20 minutes. Tank to Toy has got it going on.
I'd love to ask you this question. I was just thinking, scrum-wise, how big and how does he use the knowledge he has of being able to play 3 and 1 when he's playing, let's say he's playing 1 now. He knows what that 3 doesn't want to feel, or how would he go about using that knowledge?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the analogy here is, again, I'll go to the NFL, where you have some players that have famously changed from being quarterbacks to receivers. So your whole life, you're thinking about, how do I throw the ball to you when you got space? And then you switch around and you become the receiver, or you become a defensive player. So how can I see myself in reverse is the question. It may come as a surprise to people, but when you go down into a scrum and you've just been running and you've been doing defensive line and you've been huff puffing and you have to get there, it's not that easy to think. You better have your mind made up. And so my understanding is of swing props is they literally have a couple of things. This is from Ox that I stole this information from, that you have a couple of things you tell yourself. So I don't know this from Tank, but I imagine what he has is, if I'm on loosehead side, I've got two swing thoughts. That's it. I've got 3 max. I'm not going to go through a whole encyclopedia, or I'm going to get cooked. Now I'm on the tight head side. I'm thinking more of my shoulder. I'm thinking more of my bind, and I probably have a late move in me on my foot. Whereas on the loose head side, I can be more dynamic. I've got plenty of room to shift, and there's no one hemming me in. There's not a head on the other side, so I get to decide where I attack. Thomas just seems like a really smart prop to me. So he probably has a little Bible, a cheat sheet. He has a little book where he's got everything sorted out. And I do know that the coaches love the fact that he can slide over. So, yeah, a great question. And I think people will be surprised. We haven't sold the scrum well enough in rugby. There's been a few moments and commentators have done it, and they love it. People love it. Fans actually love it. There's a lot of findings about how we think people don't like something, but we haven't let them try it yet. It's like a restaurant that never changes their menu. Somewhere along the line, you got to show the fans that the scrum is exciting and sexy and cool, and you would then, I think, enjoy some of these battles more. No one can understand and explain scrums better than the statistician, master's degree from Free State, Ox. Ox Nché is a guy who's very cerebral about his craft, and part of it is he goes into every scrum physically outmatched by his opponent, and yet he comes out the winner most of the time. So let's take a look at Ox, who also is a guy who loves to carry the ball.
And like I said, he's one of the guys I've spent the most clips on for this episode, just purely for the fact that he's a phenomenal player, and he gets around the park, and he's got a lot of contributions that he tends to make in games. The first couple will be skill clips. Now we've spoken about this out the back ball, and we used Gerhard Steenekamp as the as kind of the king of this play, purely for the fact that he stays in motion, doesn't show it early, passes in the lion's mouth. Now Ox nearly gets hit there before he makes the pass. And you can see the outside defenders, they have to stick because they don't know if the inside defense is actually going to catch up. And that's purely for the fact that Ox has run this to perfection. France has accelerated. In France's manner, he's accelerated into that little decoy ball there. They can't leave him regardless of him accelerating or not. And then, this is that little play by Sasha going into that space. But, a prop running into that position, getting the detail right there, it shows you what his approach is to the game. And like you said, he wants to be the best in the world, and if he needs to be the best with his catch and pass, then he's going to do that as well.
We had a giggle, but actually France running downhill momentum right there, it froze Sam Cane. And because Sam Cane got frozen, Rico Ioane was up too much, and Sasha had that giant hole that he could poke the ball through. Actually, it's brilliant the way that steamrolled it.
And you can't leave France. He has to go there. But if the difference being that a lot of the other players, and we've showed some of the other players who get this wrong, they make the pass. As soon as they catch this ball, they make the pass right over there. Now, if that pass goes off from there now, how easy is it for these defenders to just push off? And then these boys on the outside, they can start making reads, and they can start closing you up there. And you probably don't get that grubber through because Kane gets into that space. So good point there. And I think, two props showing the backs how to run block lines. I like that. So another one of our props, you can see no 9 anywhere near that ruck. Ox on his way there. Probably not as good a position as France when he picks up the ball. So France can probably show him how to do the 9 pass or the pass from 9. But still, confidence, left-hand pass. And we get to play another phase. And then this is a clip I really enjoy. Tuipulotu closes the outside up. Ox obviously knows there's a lot of space on the outside. Now, if you think about forwards, not even just props, way back, this ball is going into contact. There's no ways, that ball will be passed to the outside. And if you see the way he passes this ball to the outside, he knows where the space is. He just needs to find a way to get this ball into that space. And that's why I think Ox is and you've said it, he's a very smart rugby player. He sees the space, little overhead basketball pass, and they can take that ball into the wide spaces. So catch and pass, no problem for Ox. Now, if we get to his work rate on defense, tackle, he rushes off the line, 5 meters from the line. We concede this try. But if you look at huge hit, gets back up, closes that space, late, Sias should have probably moved into that space instead of pushing Ox there. Ox is still getting out of the ruck. Sias should have probably closed this space up. We actually spoke about this when we analyzed this game last year.
Yeah.
Moved into that space, let Ox sit at 1, pushes Ox across. Ox is late, still manages to scrag tackle and the line was just too close, and we conceded that try. But the work rate and the way that he's gone double up on the tackles is fantastic. And then for props as well, open field tackles is not easy. If you think about a 15 or a back catching the ball, running it back, who's he looking for? He's looking for those mismatches. He's looking for the props, bigger locks, and yet Ox still makes that tackle. Open field tackle, no problem. Front on tackles, good line speed, forward lean, feet back, and he stays in that fight. So he's also got that focus to disrupt and cause chaos after dominant hits. And chase tackles,
Nice.
pullback, immediately up. He's like a loose forward. He's like a loose forward getting into position. Great position. And then he pushes him onto the 9. Just taking that pass, making it 1 second earlier, and they got a bit more time. A couple of more clips that I spent on Ox, but he's got such a wide variety of skills at the moment. It's great to watch him.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a flaw in our system. And anytime you have a system where you have 4 columns and numbers, you can miss things that are extra gravy. Ox just does a lot of things that are hard to put down on paper, and they are not even, other props don't even try to do those things. Very comfortable in space, very comfortable leading a pod, attack pod. But this is it's a funny anecdote. I got to actually scrum against Ox. Ox and I spent about 45 minutes talking about scrums. Then we scrummed in a hotel in London. There's a video of it. You can see it. And he was giving about 10% of his effort. I was giving about 110% of my effort. And within seconds, you could feel that it's impossible to get that low. It's just impossible for a big guy to get down that low. And so what he told me was that he waits on his opponent. He has an ability to use his feet inside that lockdown scrum that other props don't. So he lets the guy get the better of him. He was scrumming against, say, Malherbe, tremendous size differential. What he would do is just wait. And even in this stupid, silly example of me scrumming against him, he let me get on top, and then he waited, and then he just kind of gave a little nudge. And it's those nudges that give you scrum penalties. It's those nudges that give you clean ball. It's those nudges that give you everything. So take that, extrapolate that to the rest of his game. He has subtlety to his play. He's really good at that basketball pass over the top is so smart, because in so many cases that would have been wasted, that attack potential. He's definitely a team man, a club man. Everyone loves to be around him. And I find that's true of the props in general, by the way. Just go down this list so far. They're super likable guys. And he is, I think, the incumbent. We ranked him across the board, and you missed some of the. If you could add maybe 5 points for just being able to play everywhere and do a track back scramble defense tackle, Ox would probably rise. But 38 out of 40 for the scrum, the best scrummager of the looseheads. 26 out of 30 on the tackle. And part of it's just that there are some things about his size that help him, and there's some things about the size that hurt him. So in the maul game, in the lifting game, he is just not as big a guy. So 17 out of 20, because his lift on the lineout's never going to be the same as Tank's or Malherbe's. And then finally, 8 out of 10 on the carry. Probably on this one, I have the same complaint as I did with Wilco. Carry more, you're going to get a 9. He's really good at the carry. And one thing I haven't seen yet at Bach level, but we did see, from Free State days and from early days, he has wheels. I would love to see him in space the way I've seen some of the Fijian and All Black props get a little bit of running space. So now we're going to move on to Steenekamp, who we referenced, I believe, a bull, someone who also can swing. And we mean that only in a rugby sense, guys. Steenekamp is an interesting player. All these loose heads are a little bit different. You can think of the tight head as your conventional fire plug, wide body, smash mouth rugby player. Loose heads, Thomas, Ox, and now Steenekamp, there's a little bit special sauce in these guys.
Gary, just like with Ox, started with a bit of a skill clip. You can see him. He's part of the defense line. You know, probably not expecting anything. Ball pops out, good catch, and still gets rid of it. And we keep playing from there. So it just shows you the awareness. Gets up, great little catch there, traps it, and he puts the ball into space. On the attacking breakdown, also no problems. Great clip here, kick off. We secure it. Man alone stays in there, and then he gets some reinforcement from Ewan. But firstly, he knows exactly where to go from there, and he doesn't stop there. Have a look at how he keeps working with those legs, and then Ewan comes in to get the ball back from there. So attacking breakdown, very effective. On the carries, what I like about this clip is the timing with which he gets into the ball. So he's looking at the ball. He's doing a couple of things. He's visualizing. He's trying to get a visual on the ball. Is the ball available? Is 9 available? And is 9 available to play? Because a lot of times runners tend to overrun because they just expect the 9 to get the ball out. They can't see the ball. The ball's still coming out. What I like about him is he's waiting, and then he gets into that great carry position, and he puts the ball back for Peter Steff. And again, nice and low, doesn't stop working with the feet, extra carry, extra bit of leg drive gets him in behind and makes that little pick and go easier. On the defense, definitely a front-on tackler, great position. Just like we spoke earlier, that forward lean power position, getting the shoulder on, and then even if you're bind, because he's a bit side on you, that's why he slides off the side. His bind is good enough to save the tackle, and he's up immediately from there. But his technique is sound. His technique is very good. And then also, he's got a jackal intent. He'll make the tackle, get up immediately. From that, he knows he's in a good position to jackal from here. And then he starts disrupting, and they slow the ball down there. It's a shame that we can't show more clips of these guys, especially, I think Steenekamp, because he's got a couple of open field runs that he gets into. He makes good decisions with the ball. He's, late into games that he starts, he still gets off the line. He's got good line speed. He's an effective tackler. He creates chaos at the rucks. I think there's a bright future for this young man.
Steenekamp, I have no stories for. I have no nicknames for. He's literally a cipher. I'd love to know more about him. He's one of those guys who burst on the scene. I think he was part of that obliteration scrum at Loftus against Ireland. He definitely can play across the park. He's definitely got a bit of Malcolm Marx in him in that he gets over the ball. He's a bit of a hybrid, So far on the loosehead side, we have Tank and Ox, who are really different players, and they come out to the same score at 89. Steenekamp is even maybe in between the two. He's got a size differential. He doesn't immediately look like a prop when you see him running in open space. He doesn't have that telltale prop look. You could also imagine him at a lower level playing number 8. So we had him slotted at 36 out of 40 in the scrum. More tricks to learn. There's a couple of times when he got on the back foot and didn't know what to do. So he doesn't have Ox's recovery strategy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have to go down on purpose. Sometimes you're going to get a play for a reset. Steenekamp will sort of like manfully stay in there and get pinged. 27 out of 30 for the tackle, the best tackler so far out of the loose heads. And what I like about him is that he's exceptionally agile. He's not your stuck in the mud kind of prop. He can move and shift. 18 out of 20 on the lift, really phenomenal lifter. He's a one-man lift guy. So look at that, guys. When you're watching these lineouts, that is the thing you're going to see a lot this season is who can do a one-man lift. Steenekamp could put Mustard in the air by himself and put him up high enough. And then 7 out of 10 on the carry, just because I think that, again, we're looking at someone we need more to see more carries from. Admittedly, if he's involved in this many rucks and doing this much work, it's going to be hard. So now we're going to go to our dark horse, which is just a phenomenon. We're talking about Jan-Hendrik Wessels, who recently, maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, had one of the best track back tackles I've ever seen in my life for a tight forward. Literally came, and took out a wing who was going over the try line, came back from 40 meters away, ran him down, took him, cradled him like a baby, put him in a nappy, and put a pacifier in his mouth and said, hold up. Didn't even need any help to hold him up. Wessels is someone who can play across the front row. I don't think we've even seen nearly his potential. So difficult to pin down his scrummaging ability, but we're putting that at 35, which is obviously definitely club class, not necessarily world class yet for test. 28 out of 30, the best tackler across the board. Someone who can defend outside. He can do the 5th and 6th channel off of a ruck. Doesn't have to be at the pillar. 17 out of 20 on the lift, and then 9 out of 10 on the carry, because Wessels is a guy who can carry like a loose forward, like not just kind of like one, but exactly like one. So he comes in at 89. What that tells us again is we have 4 loose heads that are all ready to go. There's others that we talked about actually off air that were close as well, but need to work on their scrummaging. Nche. We have lots of candidates that we could look at. So we have the Lions behemoth that blots out the sun. We have a lot of people we can talk about, but all of them have to nail the first category first. First things first, which is, could you scrum at 79 minutes for the box, up by 2 points, down by 1 point, and can you create a penalty or can you withstand a penalty attempt? And then everything else flows from there. Andre, I think you've outdone yourself on this one. The one thing is we have to find a way in rugby to portray the scrum in a more visual way, but it's not your fault or my fault. It's just the way it is. We'd love to have more angles, more spider cams, more underground cams. Maybe we need to have some camera fitted inside the ground like a mole, but we'd love to see what all goes on inside the scrums.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. I think it feels like I've done these boys a disservice with not showing all of their clips. It's the boys I respect the most. And I would have loved to have shown a couple of extra ones on them. It's just that, we've got so many talented and so many great props, and the time was just against us.
Yeah, and we're gonna next time we're gonna go to the madmen, the hookers that no one can understand. But around them are these gentle souls, often very smart. They're gonna open up coffee shops and investment houses when they're retired, or some of them will go on to become great coaches. But it's been great fun. Please, everyone, go back in time and sort of catch the whole team and sort of follow us as we went. And these come out sort of on a weekly basis, and we're trying to time it so that when we actually reach test season, which is around the corner, we've got a whole sort of library, and we're going to also release player focus groups on this. Thanks again, Andre. It was wonderful. I learned a lot watching some of that, especially the Ox clips. I thought were absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, Harry. Look forward to dismantling the scrum offs of the pack forwards.
Our ultimate 2025 Springbok team every Sunday with André Pretorius.